Despite Arsenal being on red hot form, they are still in a mini injury crisis. Now, most players are starting to come back now, and yesterday we got the brilliant news that Jurrien Timber is starting full training at the club, with Arsenal posting videos of him returning on their social media platforms. I think Timber could be the difference for Arsenal to get them maybe a title this year, but with Arsenal playing really well, will Timber really improve them right now? Let's get into it. Well, the answer to that question, I personally think, is clearly yes. I think even though Arsenal are probably playing better than anyone else could imagine, and realistically, how better can you play by thrashing every team easily every week? But Jurrien Timber obviously would be an upgrade. It's so weird to feel like we even signed him last summer. He has not played a single game in the Premier League other than Nottingham Forest in the first game, where he played obviously half the game and then came off injured. Now, I think for most of the season, Arteta has figured out the tactics in ways that work where he's had to find it. I don't think that was his real output or real vision from the start of the season, because obviously you don't expect Partey, I mean maybe you do expect him to get injured, but you don't expect Timber to never pick up an injury before to just come and then tear his ACL. And I've done a lot of videos about Arsenal's current team thinking, should we actually replace players because they're playing so well? And now I fundamentally think no. Obviously sometimes you've got to play Trossard or Jorginho depending on what's set up, but I don't think, for example, in this scenario that Kiwior should be getting dropped, because everything is working at the moment and he is playing really well in his role. But I do think Timber would give Arsenal that extra edge. Now, he's obviously going to invert. Like, I know people have a problem with Zinchenko doing it because he often isn't a great 1v1 defender, and he's not, but he is a very good invertation player. I don't know if that's a word. But Timber is also very good. Obviously, growing up total football, Ajax and all that, we all know how good he will be on the ball. And we've seen it. We saw it in pre-season. We saw it against Man City in the Community Shield. And we know how good he can be on the ball. And when he double pivots with Rice, I do think that's going to help. And I've seen some people, I've been a lot of credit to Rice in an 8 role, thinking he's been very good. But a lot of people said he has looked a bit clunky there, which is valid. I think fair enough. And I do think maybe Rice, obviously in that 6, is obviously his main role. And that will probably be where he's be, because you wouldn't necessarily want to push him up. But he's definitely, I feel like, good enough to do it. With Timber, it allows him maybe to have a bit more space and give us a bit more freedom. Timber's obviously going to be a brilliant passer, and he's very good at driving with the ball as well. Now, the problem is, obviously, when he inverts and drives forward, you're going to have people covering that position, because we can't just have the whole left side gaping. Obviously, the 3 centre-backs will come over, but still there might be gaps there. But maybe it would be different with Timber. I do think that having Ben White invert, because he's on that right side, actually gives Arsenal a bit more bias of betterness. I think that we are better when we have that right player come in and everyone moves over from the other side, because on the other side, when it was happening, we still weren't really getting much progression towards Martinelli. Obviously now that's a bit better with Havertz and Trossard's positioning, and obviously Odegaard coming a lot deeper. Do you think that works more with Odegaard on that side necessarily than on the left side, where you'd have to do it with the left centre mid, and which we don't do that because Havertz usually pushes up more into an elevated role? So I think if Timber was actually to come in, if he was actually going to play, I think obviously we're still talking about another month at least where he's got to come back, get used to things, and then even then maybe he'll play, and Arsenal could be in a different situation by then. I think you're going to see Ben White potentially move out the team without it. Now, Ben White deserves a rest. He had a knock for a while, and a lot of people were criticising his performances. Now, while I don't think the setup really helped him either, like a lot of the other players, I think now you're definitely seeing a lot better role by him, despite arguably his role being a lot harder because he's got to do a lot more coming into midfield, passing it off. And obviously Ben White is a brilliant servant of the club and obviously should still be a star at times. I think we brought Timber in to sort of play in any of left back or right back, and potentially centre back if we have injuries whenever it sees fit. He doesn't need to play every game, but he probably will play 99% of them, either in one of them positions. Now, we are a weird team when it comes to fullbacks. Every single one of them has stepped up at some point in the season. Tomiyasu, Zinchenko's had great games, obviously Kiwior now, and Ben White. Even Cedric has painfully played a few games over Ryle Walters, which doesn't make me necessarily happy. And despite I think Timber probably is the best fullback out of all of them, because he can do the play where he comes in the middle, and he also can do brilliant defensive work, so he's actually a mix of probably a Zinchenko and Tomiyasu, maybe Kiwior. We are yet to see it, and we're yet to see if he actually will fit into that role as perfectly as we think he will. And I think it's funny because a lot of people in January were saying Arsenal need to buy more fullbacks, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think we've actually got quite a lot of options there, and we should probably necessarily buy a left back if we get a bit more injury. I think Timber will be used more on that right, in my opinion. What that means to Ben White, I don't know, but I do think it might be a sort of game plan where we play one some games, play another the other games. If they are going to do the same role, it makes you argue that is Ben White really necessary for the team long term? Realistically, Timber should be the perfect player for this team, and I do think he will develop into that. I don't actually think he won't. I think he will be a brilliant player and probably one of our best signings, but he's going to have to adapt. It's going to take time, but you've got to think with his physicality, it probably won't won't take too long. This does make me feel ashamed for people like Tomiyasu and Kiwior. I think Kiwior probably still has a role in the team somewhere because he's still that Gabriel replacement if anything happened to Gabriel, and I still think he's very good. But Tomiyasu a few months ago was winning our Player of the Month award. Since then, he's obviously picked up injuries and went to Asia Cup as well. Obviously, with his versatility of being able to play on both sides, it definitely will help. But it wonders, do we need all these players if we are to sign another left back, if the rumours are true? Are we going to be able to play them all, and who is going to actually have to leave? And it's interesting as well because all the analysis I've done about Timber is how that it means that we are not forced to play Zinchenko. If Zinchenko does not play, we are not forcing someone to invert who can't do it. But how the role has been developed in the last few months, we've been playing the best I think we have been in a very long time. And it's all because Ben White's actually inverting. So if Ben White can invert, we don't necessarily need Timber as much because it makes the roles on the team a lot more easier as it is. Obviously, it's no problem to have another player in there who's brilliant, of course. And Timber can play on that right and that left side and probably invert either way on either or side, which definitely helps the team progress. And I think in-game that will help us mid-game change our little dynamics to go from right to a left side maybe with White switching over. I do think he's going to struggle to get in the team as it is. Obviously, I really hope he gets into the team eventually. As much as I like the players that we have, it's good to have that new signing in there. He's been brilliant before in his careers and he deserves it. We spent a lot of money on him as much as we did on other players. It'll be good to finally see what he is because I think he's one of the best fullbacks, or could be one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League potentially. And I think when he gets going and when he gets to the full potential, really could carry Arsenal to something special. Of course, our defense is amazing as it is, and I think that even helps him even more. We're getting a new player that's going to be comfortable with the defense. That's why I'm being very much an admirer of Arsenal getting a young centre-back, young left-back in the summer. Someone like Branthwaite or Diamande, or even someone like Jared Hetto, I think would be brilliant because they are coming into established defence, which is a brilliant system that works. This can only help them improve, and obviously they don't need to be a star every game. Buying a young defender, they will not demand that, and they can work their way in the team slowly, and if there's some injury, can definitely prove their point in the team. Now, I don't know if Timber will start any games till the end of the season because I think Arsenal will probably be a bit cautious considering his big injury list, so I don't think necessarily it'll be a big deal, but maybe we get loads of injuries in our fullback positions and he has to come in, and maybe we have to literally push him in. Maybe that will happen, but I guess I'm just talking about speculation and things that potentially could happen, but we really don't know. I expect Timber to play eventually, but I don't think it'll be for a while, and we've still got brilliant fullbacks. I think people need to give a lot of credit to Kiwior, to Tomiyasu, and even to Zinchenko, who people hate on a lot. Obviously Ben White should be excellent and everyone should know he's excellent a lot of the time. He had a bit of a knock, had a bit of bad form, but he's brilliant now. Thank you guys for watching. Now I just want to say I've been going full throttle on this videos and the channel recently, and I think it's been doing really well. I'm really glad to see you guys comment. I've been very busy and often don't get time to respond, but I appreciate your comments as always. Now I'm going away this weekend. There will be a video tomorrow hopefully, but I will not be doing any videos on Saturday and Sunday because I'm away for the weekend. Now this is the first time I'm missing any days in a very long time, so it's going to be a bit weird going away from it, but luckily Arsenal do actually play it on Monday, so I'll be doing videos obviously recapping the game, you know, all of that. But I appreciate you guys as always watching. Thank you for everything.